Pose we've ever seen in true crime, right? The man convicted of raping and murdering her daughter and the victim's mother teaming up to fight for justice. Both of them. So much emotion in this podcast. We have never before heard moments from the interrogation tapes of Chris Tapp where he gives that false confession. We also have a sound from the mother, which I have to admit here, listening to her, it's hard not to get emotional. Both of these people and their humanity is really at the forefront of this case, and their journey to fight for Chris's freedom and to fight to find the true murderer of her daughter. It's a journey that will stay with me forever, Kira.
Yeah, it's gripping just seeing the little bit that we've been able to see. You actually get to hear from Angie's mother as well. I mean, what was that like 30 years after her daughter's murder?
Yeah, well, Kira, it's almost exactly 30 years since Angie Dodge was brutally murdered. And, hearing from her mother, you can still tell that emotion is so raw. And there were moments, I heard this sound so many times that I would have to fight back emotion. I think, as a mom, you just feel this connection. And it's really thanks to her mom. She never quit. She was out there on the streets looking for leads, talking with the police. And it's that emotion and dedication that will stick with me forever, Kira.
Yeah, no doubt. Maggie Ruley, thank you so much. And don't forget, The Snare is available now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and other major podcast platforms. Straight ahead, the legal battle over a controversial dog breeding facility is finally over. Now, hundreds of these beagles are finding their forever homes. Serena and Venus Williams teaming up yet again when the sisters are returning to the court.
Gravity keeps everything in its place.
That's logical, but there's another way.
Designs that change your step. Creativity that sets trends on fire.
Because when something is made with quality and talent, your feet start lifting off the ground, and when you discover that it comes from Spain,
you're already floating. Spain of your life! News program for the 4th year in a row. You're watching America's #1 streaming news. Keep streaming with ABC News Live.
This is your first joint interview, network TV interview, since leaving the White House almost 10 years ago.
That's true.
Yeah.
Barack and Michelle Obama. And a first look at the new Obama Presidential Center tomorrow on Good Morning America.
Glad you're streaming with us. Well, 2 comebacks are better than 1. Today, Serena Williams announcing she'll be joining her sister Venus as wild cards in the women's double event at Wimbledon later this month. Their last appearance together, you may remember, also at the English tournament back in 2016 when the sisters claimed their 6th Wimbledon doubles title. Serena hasn't played professional tennis since 2022. This will be fun to watch. Well, it was a years-long battle where animal welfare activists eventually stormed a breeding and research research facility in Wisconsin in an attempt to take away hundreds of beagles they say were being abused. Those protests prompting police to use tear gas and pepper spray as they made dozens of arrests. Now, demonstrations and rescue attempts. The Wrigley Farms testing facility has agreed to close, marking the final chapter in a bitter, years-long battle. Our Sophie Flay has more.
Hundreds of beagles heading to forever homes this week as a controversial breeding and research facility in Wisconsin prepares to shut down its doors for good.
This was a real win for everybody, for the dogs. No more testing, no more breeding, no more selling.
For many of these beagles, it's the first time they've ever felt grass under their paws. Hundreds of dogs bred for medical research are now headed to rescues and families from Florida to Alabama. In June 2024, a routine inspection uncovered multiple animal care violations. Then in September, a follow-up inspection found twice as many violations. In January 2025, a judge appointed a special prosecutor to investigate Wrigley Farms. And in October, Wrigley agreed to surrender its breeding license by July this year to avoid felony animal mistreatment charges, an accusation the company denied. Then in March this year, animal welfare activists broke in and escaped with 30 dogs. A month after, a large group stormed the property in an attempt to free the dogs. Police responded with tear gas and pepper spray, resulting in dozens of arrests.
They took the bullets, they took the tear gas, they took being arrested. They brought this to the world's attention, and they had a huge impact.
The first wave of releases happened shortly afterward. Roughly 1,500 beagles purchased by Big Dog Ranch Rescue in Florida. Now, the final 475 dogs are leaving too. About 325 are on the road this week, and roughly 150 more will follow in August, when Wrigley closes its doors for good.
It's really all about those dogs, their futures, being able to have the chance to live outside of a metal building, outside of a cage, going into families, having yards to play in, being loved.
And our thanks to Sophie Flay. Well, the firm has denied mistreating animals, but a special prosecutor determined that Wrigley Farms was performing eye procedures that violated state veterinary standards. Wrigley Farms agreed in October to give up its state breeding license as of July 1st as part of this deal to avoid prosecution on felony animal mistreatment charges. Well, the news never stops. Neither do we. You can find us anywhere you stream live news. And if you're on the go, we're on the ABC News app and abcnews.com. I'm Kira Phillips. Glad you're with us. A lot more news up next. Don't go far.
The vibes were injury attorneys. Call 1-800-8-million.
ABC News Live.
Well, he says he's got a deal. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kira Phillips from our nation's capital. It's Tuesday, June 16th. Right now on ABC News Live, the agreement between the White House and Tehran when oil could start flowing out of the Strait of Hormuz and why Israel was left out of the negotiations. The foiled plot at the big fight. What we know now about the alleged attack planned for the UFC event at the White House and the suspects now under arrest. The vice president on The View, what J.D. Vance says about the administration's handling of the Epstein files. And the antidepressant health alert, why the FDA is recalling thousands of bottles of a popular drug that Americans use every day. ABC News Live starts right now. Well, we are learning a lot more about those 5 suspects the FBI says are behind a drone plot targeting the UFC event at the White House. DOJ just releasing these images, it says, were seized from one of the suspects in the alleged plan to attack President Trump's 80th birthday with explosive drones. DOJ also releasing this image allegedly showing one of the suspects conducting firearms training. 5 men now arrested. Court documents say it started to unravel when the mother of one of the suspects called authorities in Ohio last week. Our Christian Cordero joins me now. So what more do we know, Christian?
Well, Kira, law enforcement says as many as 23 people are involved in this incident, and it really unraveled, as you mentioned, through various chats online. And a mother who alerted law enforcement, according to law enforcement, that her son was doing things that were out of character, having a lot of firearms recently purchased, tons of ammunition, in his parents' words, and allegedly was planning to recon with people that he met online. But those images that you saw, from what was released just earlier today, they are tied to the 5 arrests that we know about. And those arrests happened across different states, including California, Missouri, Nebraska, and Ohio. There's still a lot of details that we're trying to kind of parse through and figure out, including why the administration was very quick to label this as a potential terrorist plot. They haven't named any specific terrorist organizations that are potentially tied to this investigation, but certainly, Kira, a lot of concern knowing that there were people who were plotting some kind of attack at the White House over the weekend.
And as we learn more about this alleged plot, we're also hearing about an increased threat from unmanned drones at the World Cup, right?
Right. And so there are several agencies across the country, law enforcement agencies, that have beefed up their anti-drone technology, and we're being told that all 78 World Cup matches now have counter-drone technology. So that's something, just kind of speaking to the moment of the heightened and tense kind of moment that we're in right now, and knowing that there are several risks at play here, and as all of these high-profile events are happening at once. But no known threats at this time, but certainly a level of preparation that we haven't seen before.
All right, Christian Cordero, thank you. Good peace deal by President Trump, but where's the peace? It's day 2 of the G7 summit in France, and the U.S.-Iran ceasefire agreement continues to overshadow the president's visit with world leaders. The text of that agreement still yet to be made public, prompting a lot of questions over how soon we'll actually see oil flowing through the Strait of Hormuz and whether the U.S. is getting everything that it wants. That, of course, including the main reason the Trump administration started this war, to eradicate Iran's nuclear program. Let's bring in our White House correspondent, Karen Travers from Geneva. So Trump has been trashing the Obama administration for unfreezing assets, but isn't that being considered as a possibility in this deal as well?
It is being considered, Kira. It is something that is very much on the table, part of these negotiations, and the president has acknowledged it himself. He was asked this question yesterday of whether or not the deal would involve any sanctions relief for Iran. When would that go into effect? And at first, Kira, he said, no, it doesn't, but then acknowledged that there's a behavioral thing, as he put it, because there's going to be an incentive structure, according to senior administration officials, where if Iran performs, as they put it, and hits certain metrics that have not haven't yet been released in terms of what they want to see Iran do, then there would be sanctions lifted, frozen assets also lifted on released back to Iran, and so they would get something in return. But senior officials have also emphasized that that hasn't happened yet. It didn't happen just with the signing of this initial memo of understanding. It has to come over time as Iran shows that it will live up to this bargain. But again, Kira, it's a lot of those things that still have to be negotiated in the 60-day window, and the White House hasn't even said what it is Iran has to do to meet those metrics at this point.
So another major sticking point is talk of the tolls at the Strait of Hormuz. Do we really know where that stands?
Yeah, this could be a potential big one. You know, the president has insisted repeatedly that it will be permanently toll-free. A senior administration official told us that as part of this memo of understanding, it will be toll-free for 60 days. Then they'll have to negotiate it again for moving forward. But Iran has said a very different story on this. They say they want to charge service fees for ships that would be going through there. Maybe this is a nomenclature thing of just what you want to call it, tolls or service fees, but Iran clearly is still driving a very hard line on this, insisting they need to get something. But the president has said it will be a permanently free waterway, but at this point, we have been told by senior officials, according to this deal, it is only for 60 days right now.
All right, Karen Travers in Geneva for us. Karen, thank you. Let's continue the conversation. The former commander of U.S. Army Space and Missile Defense Command, retired Lieutenant General Daniel Karbler. Good to see you, sir. What are your thoughts on this memorandum of understanding? I mean, there's no legal binding here. It's just an understanding, and we really don't know a lot about it.
Yeah, sure enough, Kira. It's you know, what legal teeth does this have? You know, who is going to hold each party accountable? Who's got the responsibility to follow through on consequences with this memorandum of understanding should one side or the other not follow through on the understanding? I also think that this can't become a memorandum of misunderstanding. You know, are there tolls? Are there not going to be tolls? Is it going to be an open passageway? There's just so many unknowns right now without seeing the exact language. And also just the fact that it's really not binding. A memorandum of understanding in any other kind of forum that you might be in is just kind of an opportunity for people to maybe get together and discuss what their issues are and say, okay, here's where we want to go forward from our position. But again, nothing really binding to it. Each party is going to go to their own interest and liking. So I just really think that the court's out still until we see the text of the language and then see the actions from both parties.
So what will it take to have an outcome that benefits both the U.S. and Iran?
Yeah, it's going to take things that haven't existed here in the past, you know, for sure the last 4 months since the conflict has happened, but really over the decades. Trust. You've got to be able to verify each party's actions. You've got to have credibility out there, and then some level of compromise. And again, we just haven't seen any of those things, and so it's going to take a lot from both sides. Maybe an intermediary to help hold both sides together in order to make this memorandum of understanding actually be translatable into actions that will help move both parties forward.
Trump says the Israel-Lebanon conflict is a minor war, those words, and doesn't even threaten the U.S.-Iran deal. Do you agree?
It's a big deal within the Middle East, and every time that we start to walk towards some sort of agreement, it seems like Israel inserts themselves with either an attack, whether it's provoked or unprovoked, but they just never seem to be satisfied with standing pat and allowing this process to play out. You know, I don't want to be facetious. They're a little bit like the old Leroy Jenkins thing that you see on the video games from a long time ago. You can have a plan, and then all of a sudden Israel runs in there and disrupts the plan. So President Trump has got to continue to put influence on Israel to get them to stand down and to allow this process to take place.
All right, final question. I mean, what do you think all of this means for the future of U.S. military posture right now in the Middle East?
They're still going to have to be ready. I don't see us withdrawing any forces anytime soon. Part of, if Iran doesn't hold up to their part of the memorandum of understanding, I believe President Trump wants to be able to have a military response available should that requirement be there. But we've seen over the last 4 months, even the U.S. military response hasn't been enough to bring Iran to any kind of negotiating table other than the current memorandum of understanding.
And General Dan Karbler, appreciate you. Thank you, General.
Thanks, Carol.
Another of President Trump's perceived political enemies says he's feeling the wrath of Trump's DOJ now. California Governor Gavin Newsom says the Justice Department is investigating him and his wife, and he claims it's because he's considering running for president. Newsom has butted heads with Trump over countless policies, from immigration to redistricting, and has mocked him quite a bit on social media. Let's bring in Justice reporter Alex Mallon. So what more is Newsom saying here, and any response from DOJ?
Yeah, I mean, in the past 15 hours since we learned of this investigation, we've really seen Governor Newsom go on offense, as would be expected, given he has already been one of the most vocal critics of this administration and this president. We've seen him issue statements. His office held a background call with reporters to dispute various legal theories that they say are being cooked up by this DOJ to pursue him and his wife. Now, we understand through sources here at the Justice Department that prosecutors in the Eastern District of California are examining Newsom's wife's taxes related to a nonprofit that she was involved with previously. And basically, there's no indication that they are at an imminent indictment of him or his wife. It's really unclear where this stands. But Newsom has been vocal about this, saying that in recent weeks and days that friends, families, and allies have been approached by prosecutors and agents and asked to be interviewed, and it indicates to them that they have already subpoenaed financial records of his and his wife's. So obviously, the idea that investigators would be combing through his private financial records is highly concerning to Governor Newsom, regardless of where this investigation may or may not end up. So what we're really seeing from strategy-wise from Newsom is what we saw the Fed Chair Jerome Powell do when he was notified he was under investigation. He chose to take the tack of going on offense and issuing that kind of video statement that we saw from Newsom. Whether Newsom continues to go on offense in terms of potentially bringing legal action against the Justice Department, that remains to be seen, Kira.
All right, Alex Mallon, thank you. Vice President J.D. Vance insisting that the White House has been transparent about the Epstein investigation. He actually appeared on The View this morning with our ladies and was pressed on a New York Times report that he was the leading voice behind the scenes at the White House, calling for the release of all the Epstein files. The Times also reporting that Vance floated the idea of having Tucker Carlson interview Ghislaine Maxwell to make clear that the president had nothing to do with